Midtown Church live streaming and slides training video. This video is long, but please watch the whole thing. All the details you need are covered here as concisely as possible, so please don't skip anything. Quick reference timestamps are in the description, so you can re-watch certain details if you missed them. Thank you. So this is the new Midtown live stream setup. I've got everything pulled out, all the cables and adapters and the whole system pulled out of the bottom shelf here. Just so you can see what we're working with. But for now, I'll have it out and then I'll put it back in afterwards. This is just so you can have an understanding of what's going on. But when you first set up, you'll need to plug in the power cable for the sound part. And then obviously you'll need to get the projector set up as well. And to do that, you plug in the projector and you'll just run the purple cable from here. This is computer 1 in. It's the VGA adapter cable. And that'll just run the purple cable all the way back. And when it's actually set up properly, this end will actually be down in here and you won't need to plug this in. This will already be plugged into the system, as will all the cables. But I am going to walk you through how to get it set up from scratch, just so we know what we're doing. So the whole system is a lot of inputs and outputs, and it all revolves around this one Mac Mini. So you can think of this as the hub. This is an Apple computer. It displays, the primary display will be on this monitor, and the secondary display will be on the projector screen. We haven't got all that plugged in yet, but I'll show you how to do that. We will be piping in audio for the live stream from the Soundboard using the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd generation. This just converts an audio signal into a Thunderbolt port for audio input. And then we will also have a camera that we'll be using to convert the video into something the Mac can read and put on the live stream. And then we'll have, mouse, keyboard, stuff like that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Power. So I'll walk through getting all that plugged in and set up. So once the power cables, this will be the power strip we use. We've got several different adapters. There is the Canon adapter that fits on the end, and this will plug into the camera and power the camera. We've got this USB phone charger actually that'll be plugging into one of our adapters because it needs power. So this is just a micro USB cable. We've got this which plugs into the monitor. This is just a standard 3-prong adapter, plugs into the monitor. Another standard 3-prong adapter which plugs into the soundboard. And then we've got this 2-prong adapter which will plug into the Mac Mini. And then finally at the end here we've got this 2-prong AC-DC adapter which will plug into our wireless microphone system. The soundboard and the wireless microphone system are nothing new. Everything else is fairly new, or at least new to this setup. So I guess we'll start with everything that plugs into the Mac Mini. What we'll first look at is power, so only follow this power cable here. A lot of cables. Power cable plugs right in on the back. It's right next to the power button. So we've got the power button, power cable, and we've got Ethernet. We'll be using Wi-Fi, so that's not important. And there's 4 Thunderbolt ports. There's an HDMI port, and then there's 2 USB ports, and right under that there's a headphone jack. So we'll primarily be using the Thunderbolt ports, but we'll also use the HDMI and the USB for the mouse and keyboard. So I'm actually going to go ahead and plug in the mouse and keyboard into the USB ports. This should all be pre-configured, but just in case you want to unplug it for some reason, I'm walking you through that. The next adapter we will use is this CableCreation. This is from Amazon, CableCreation. It's got Thunderbolt on one end, and then it goes to HDMI and VGA. So we'll be using this with our monitor. So this will go here. We've got a VGA cable that plugs in here. It's the blue one. And the VGA cable runs around to the back of the monitor and plugs in on the back. So that'll provide the display, first display. The second cable adapter we've got is this Moread HDMI to VGA adapter. This one, because it's digital, HDMI is digital and the VGA is analog, it needs power to convert that signal. So what will first happen is we'll plug this into the HDMI port on the back of the Mac Mini. We will plug in the purple cable that goes to the projector. And once that's hooked in, we will actually need power from our USB phone charger, basically, and that needs to be plugged in here in order for this adapter to work. It's got DC 5 volts, that's just that little USB spot. So now that that's powered, we'll be able to run video on the projector. Next up, we've got this cable. This is just a USB-C or Thunderbolt cable. It's the same on both ends. I'll actually show you. It's the same on both ends. It says Noot on it. That's the brand. It plugs into the other USB-C or Thunderbolt port. And then once that's in there, you can actually take the Focusrite, and that plugs in right on the back. So that's where that cable will be running. And I'm just going to run that. Third, we've got, this says Pengo on it. This is an HDMI to Thunderbolt converter. So this takes the HDMI video from the camera feed, and runs it into the Mac Mini so that our live streaming software can play it back. So we've got that plugged in, and then I'll show you how to route the cable for the camera after I get the camera set up. So a couple things that you will need to set up each week. Like I said, all the cables and everything should be routed except for a couple things. That's what I'll walk you through here is the camera. So we've got the tripod here, should be in the case. Make sure you put it back in the case when you're done each week. You just need to pop out the legs. It's got these clamps. Once you've got those unlocked, you stretch them out, lock them all back. Should be 9 of them. And then you can open this. And what I did is I just set this right next to the sound cart, very close, so that nobody can run through and yank on any cables or get in between. This thing is very smooth. I'm a big fan. And then we can actually just crank this up. If it's not working, there's adjustable locks that'll unlock it, any of the movement if it feels stuck. And then I'll lock that back in place. So that's the tripod. The camera should be in this bag. And I'll pull it out here. So here's our camera, very small. I've already got the adapter for the tripod on here. So all you need to do is come over here. Now this lever right here will snap into place when you click the camera in. Watch your fingers. I cut my finger on it this morning. When you slide that in, pop, clips right in. Nice and easy. On the camera, there's a few different things, but I'll walk through that in a second. What you want to do is you want to open the camera. There's this thing on this side. And then there is the power cable, which actually feeds into the other side. So we've got the power cable that I was talking about. You'll have to pull this out each week. Just plug it in. The spot is right here under the strap. You'll plug that in. And then each week the HDMI, the mini HDMI cable will be coiled up on the sound cart. And you'll have to plug that in. You'll see right here it says HDMI out. You'll just have to pop that in. And then the camera should be good to go. Once you power it up, it'll all be set up. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and power that on right now. It's gonna make a noise. It'll probably say no memory card inserted. Oh, well actually it's gonna say check whether the lens cover's open. On this side, there is a switch for the lens cover. We'll just toggle that. And then it'll be open. We'll be able to see everything. Zoom is on the top here if you want to use that. You probably should for the sermons. I like to zoom in on whoever's talking, give them enough space to walk around, and then zoom out when the congregation is singing or during worship. So the camera's all good to go. The only stuff you'll have to set up each week is the camera and the 2 cables that plug into it, the HDMI and the power cable. The HDMI cable will run, this is what I was saying earlier, will run all the way into this Pengo adapter. This is a converter, and we will convert the signal from HDMI into the computer so that we can feed it into the live stream. So that just plugs in. This is the other end of the cable that comes from the camera, and it just pops right into the adapter. Once that's in the adapter, and you won't have to set that up each week, you just have to plug it into the camera. So once that's in, I think we should be good. That's all the cables that are routed. The one more cable that I think I'll get set up here is this is just an audio headphone extender. Because the Mac Mini's down here, it'll be down on this shelf. It's helpful to have an extra extension cable for headphones if you would like to monitor the live stream audio, which I'll walk through later. But this will just be out here on the top of the sound card. Everything else should be hidden nicely away underneath. All right, so now we're going to walk through kind of the whole boot up process. You'll have to do this each week. Get the Mac Mini booted up and ready for the live stream and the slides. So we will do that. You'll have to reach in here. I don't know why they place the power button on the back, because everybody accesses the computer from the front. But the power button is on the back. It'll be facing you when you reach down into the shelf here. Yep. But when you press the power button, it should power up. So let's see what it does, also with the projector in the back. So it'll boot up. The thing about the Mac Mini is it'll usually boot up on the projector. So keep an eye on that. You'll see that the monitor here actually isn't doing anything. It'll run into this problem probably more often. And then it looks weird on this screen. So what I do, just in case, I'll actually unplug, once it's booted up, the HDMI, and then you'll see it goes full screen on our monitor, which is the primary display. And then it goes nothing on the projector because we unplugged that. When I plug this back in, it readjusts, and then we've got the monitor looks nice, and it'll adjust over to the projector as well. It's a little bit dark, but it is there. So if you encounter a problem where the monitor looks weird or it's not showing up on our monitor, just unplug the little HDMI and then plug it back in. That's all you need to do. It'll readjust, it'll reconfigure automatically. So now we're at the login screen for Midtown Church. The password is Midtown, all lowercase. So I'll just punch that in, hit enter, and then we'll log in to the main screen here. On the desktop, I'll go over kind of the main apps and folders we'll be using. This folder right here, Services, it's a link to our DropBox account. Whoever the worship leader is for that week, usually Andy, should have updated the PowerPoint for that week in the DropBox. So today is the 9th. It's Sunday evening on the 9th, but we did worship this morning with this PowerPoint. So what I would usually do first to set up is make sure that that's all good to go. It'll pull up. We've got our songs. We've got PowerPoint is good to go on the computer. Once that's up, I'll hit the yellow button in the top left corner just to minimize that down to the dock. So the next app we have is Safari. This is the web browser. We can access Gmail. The Gmail account on here is midtownstlworship@gmail.com. We've used this a couple times just in case we need to email files for the slides. Suppose somebody wants to include a video or some extra images in the slides, they can email it to this and we can drop that in from the Gmail. So that's what we use this for. All the passwords for any accounts that we use on the Midtown computer are saved into Safari, so it should autofill the passwords when you get there, if you need it. Dropbox account is the second bookmark. It's midtownstlworship@gmail.com. Now this is already linked directly to the file system on the computer, but if you need to access Dropbox through the browser, that's available. Our third one right here, and this is probably one of the most important for this computer, is the YouTube Studio Live bookmark. When I click that, it pulls up the YouTube Studio. And this is where we manage all of our live streaming for YouTube, because people will view it on YouTube. So that's what I'll talk about next, I guess. When I want to pull up a stream, I'll hit Schedule Stream up here in the corner after clicking on the bookmark. And you'll get this pop-up that says New Stream with Last Used Settings. So the last used stream was actually a demo stream I had for actually tomorrow. But that's all you need is you just hit Reuse Settings, and then I retitle it for the date. So if we pretend that today is the 10th, I'll say Sunday Morning Worship 8/10/20, August 10th, 2020. It should be a public video, and this should all be pre-filled, but just in case, it should be a public video. Nonprofits and activism is where this falls. That's the closest category YouTube has for a church. Sunday, August 9th will be the date, and 6:40 p.m. will be the time. You'll set that to 10:15. Setting the time does not automatically start the stream at that time. That just lets the viewers know that that's when the stream should be going live. You'll still have to manually start the stream when it's time for the service. Now down here it says, is this video made for kids required? This is just for a Privacy Protection Act. Legally, we have to say that no, it's not made for kids. Age restriction, we don't want to restrict it to an adult audience. So we say, no, don't restrict my video to viewers over 18 only. Now when you're reusing settings, this should all be pre-configured. You might just have to set the date and time and then change the title. I'm going to hit create and it creates a new stream. Now this will notify anybody who follows the Midtown YouTube account that we just created a stream that's scheduled for that time. When I click on this, it gives you a link here, Sunday Morning Worship. When I click on that, it'll open the YouTube studio. And this is where the magic happens, I guess. It'll have all kinds of different settings. The stream key right here, it says auto-generated key. This is just a password so that we can paste this password into our streaming software, and the streaming software will send that to this page for YouTube. You can see right here it has a preview, but there's nothing available. That's because we haven't configured the streaming software yet. So we'll have to get that stream key. Now that stream key is automatic, so it should be already in the system. We don't want to share that stream key with anybody, because if they know it, they can tap into the Midtown stream and take over it. That's not good. But the stream key will already be in the software. It should be good. If you have issues with that, I'll show you how to fix that in a bit. Shouldn't have to change any of these other settings. Analytics will show you how many viewers you have. Stream health will show you that you're basically connected to the internet and that it's working. The next thing I do when I get the stream configured, this should be somewhat before the service. I try to aim for half an hour before the service. I click share, because this will be able to share the stream. It gives us a link, just a YouTube link. When I copy that, I then make a new tab, and then I'll pull up the website editor. And this is the fourth bookmark we have on here. This links to our Squarespace, actually Chad Steerwalt's Squarespace account, who manages our website. And again, the login should already be configured on here. It'll autofill the password. We want to make sure that people can get from our website to our YouTube stream. So we copied that link earlier. We'll go to Pages, and then all the way down to Live. When we click on Live, it'll pull up the Live Services page. But we want to edit this. There's a button here that says Watch Now. That's where we want our link to be, so that when they click that link, it goes to the live video. So if you hover over this for a second, you'll see it'll say Page Content Edit. You just want to click Edit, and it'll go full screen, and I want to scroll down, hover over the button, it'll say Button Edit. I want to click Edit, and you'll get this pop-up. The only thing you want to edit is click through URL. So I'll select that, and then I'll go down and I'll paste our new YouTube link in. Click Apply, and then it'll say Editing Page Content. You just want to save that. Once that's saved, the website is up to date. It happens instantly. Anybody who clicks this link now will be directed to our YouTube live feed for that week. So if I click Watch Now, you'll actually be able to see on YouTube. We've got it scheduled. It's waiting to get started. They'll have this little splash screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and close that tab because we don't need to watch it. We just need to manage it. Once that's all set up, you'll be able to open OBS, and that's our next piece of software in the dock here. OBS stands for Open Broadcast Studio. When I open it, it'll load up this screen or perhaps this screen. It's the same thing. And it will, you have a few different things here. So down here first with the controls, there's Start Streaming, Start Recording, Studio Mode, Settings, and Exit. Start Streaming will begin to send the stream to YouTube. So if we go back to the YouTube page here, that'll start streaming to YouTube. We won't be live until we press Go Live on YouTube's page, but the stream will be there, ready to go live. So first, what I want to do is I want to configure, you can see we've got all black right now. There's nothing, nothing on any of our cameras. We only have one camera. But sometimes there's a little bit of difficulty getting the camera set up. So in this scene here, this is our primary scene with the main camera and microphone. Inside of this scene, we've got different input sources. So right here, the video capture is our camera. If you're having trouble with it, you go down to Settings here at the bottom, you select Video Capture, click Properties, it's that little gear, and it'll show you this. It'll want you to reselect all the presets. So usually what I do is I just click on this menu, I select as many options as I can, and then it'll say HDMI to U3 capture, you select that, and now we've got live camera feed. You can see when I move the camera, we also move on this screen here. So now we're live. Again, if you're having difficulty with it recognizing the camera, you just go to Properties for video capture, and then you reselect the blank spot is usually what you need to do, and then press HDMI to U3 capture, and that just refreshes it and it should work for the rest of the service. But you might need to do that at the beginning of each service. It's a little on and off. All right, so the next setting in here is the Focusrite. This is an audio input, you can tell because of the microphone. And this is the audio coming in from this box right here under the monitor, the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd generation. And what we can do here, and actually I'll come over to the soundboard so you can see everything. The sound guy will have a, will run the sound like normal. We've got the mains channel, so when they've got the mains up, it's the main PAs. We've also got this channel out here. It says main 1, left or right. I plug this 1/4-inch jack into the main 1 left channel. It should already be good to go. And we'll actually run this over into the input jack on the front of our Scarlett 3rd generation. So when I plug that in, it goes. And then you'll see these guys, there's a few buttons and settings on here. Monitor, you don't need to mess with that. This button here is the instrument setting. If it's turned off, you're not going to be able to hear any audio. So make sure that that light instrument is lit. You press that button. This controls the gain input. So you can adjust this. If the light turns yellow or red, it's too loud. There's a little light ring around this. Usually I try to keep it in the green. So you can turn it up or down as you see fit. I'll also show you how to monitor the audio with headphones as we're streaming. So we've got the Focusrite in here. That's where that audio will be coming from. And then I've also got this setting, which is an audio source called camera audio. If you want to mix in some of the room, for instance, when the congregation is maybe clapping or reading along with the speaker, you will be able to hear the whole room. When you're feeding in from the soundboard, you can only hear what the microphones are mic'd up to. If you want to hear the whole room, it'll take the audio from the camera and feed that in as well, and I'll show you how to mix that. Right here, we've got the audio mixer. This is in OBS, again, this is the streaming software. I keep the mic aux channel muted. When it's white, it's turned on, and when it's red, it's muted. This is just the Mac Mini microphone. We want to keep that muted, and I'll actually pull the slider down too. It's just like a soundboard. This is the Focusrite. This is the Scarlett, like I said. This will be the audio that we're getting in from the microphone. So that should be turned on, and this should be at 10 decibels or so. It'll say 10. And then this is the camera audio as well. Sometimes if you do want to add in some of the room, you can unmute it and slide it up to mix them a little bit. And you can actually see that as I'm talking, we're getting little bits of audio in here on the stream. Usually I keep that muted though because it makes it sound muddy, and especially if the air conditioners are on, you'll have a lot of different fuzzes and hums, and it doesn't sound great. But if you want to hear the congregation, you can mix that in. I never mute the Focusrite channel because that's where the pulpit audio is, that's where the band audio is, and that's where the headset audio is, because it's all coming in crystal clear from the soundboard. So, once you press start streaming on OBS, it'll start feeding that audio, video and audio, the live feed, into YouTube. So you can switch back to the YouTube studio, and you'll see in just a second the preview will update. We'll wait for the preview to update. Yep, there we go. So this is now a live feed of our current setup. It's actually on a 30-second delay. That's pretty standard for a lot of live streaming. But if we move the camera around a little bit, you'll see in OBS we get a real-time adjustment. And then in YouTube, the studio, in the browser, it'll be on a 30-second delay. So you'll see that the camera will start moving here in a second. There we go. So just remember that if you're monitoring stuff, you don't want to monitor it in the YouTube studio because it'll be on a 30-second delay here. If you do want to monitor your camera stuff, you can either see it on the screen of the camera, which I think is the most helpful, or you can see it in the OBS Studio software. Real quick, another thing in the Studio software, there's this Studio mode. If you click Studio mode, it'll actually change it to one view. This is mostly for multi-camera adjustments. You'll have a preview of what's queued up, and then you can transition into what is the live. I've used that in the past, although I don't think we'll need to use it because we only have one camera. So I'll actually leave this just with that one main screen. But that's what Studio mode does. In settings here, in OBS, this is a little bit more of the technical stuff. You'll have the different settings Stream is the main one you might need to adjust. I haven't had to adjust it in the 6 months or so at this point that we've been doing live streaming. But the stream key is like the password that links the streaming software to the YouTube video. And like I said earlier in here, this is that stream key. You don't want to share it, you don't want to reset it unless you're having trouble. But I can copy that stream key in YouTube, and then I can paste it in here in OBS, and that'll update and feed the software directly into YouTube. So those are kind of the basic settings here on OBS. Now remember, when you press start streaming in the software, it won't send it live. The viewers won't be able to see it. The preview that you're seeing now is only a preview, and that's not live. So if I press go live, we'll be able to start streaming to the video, or to YouTube. So now we're going live. People are probably watching and wondering what's going on at this point because it's Sunday evening and there's no audio. But we are now live on the Midtown YouTube channel, and you can see we've actually got one viewer already somehow with the analytics. That's interesting.
It's not yourself.
I don't think it's me. Somebody's viewing somewhere. Anywho, once we're live, presumably the service will be starting at this point, so we will want to switch over to PowerPoint now, because if you see the screen up here, the projector screen, we've actually just got the default Apple wallpaper. So on the computer, you'll want to switch back over to PowerPoint, and you remember from earlier we minimized that screen. The worship leader should have checked the PowerPoint slides and made sure they're all correct. In PowerPoint, you just have to go up to the menu here, select Slideshow, and you can play from start or play from the current size or slide. So we will select one of those. I'll just do play from start, I guess. And this pulls in presenter mode. This is now presenting on the screen over here. All right, I think we ran out of video storage space, so I'm trying this again here. When we last left off, we were in PowerPoint and it was presenting. We have it both on the screen and on the software. Now the computer treats the screen and the projector and the monitor as two different monitors. So it's all the same computer, but it's just presenting two different things, two separate things. On this, we've got the presentation tools, so we can actually select different, it's pretty straightforward. Select different slides as needed, switch between them. You can actually see we've got the current slide here, which is being presented, and we've got the next slide here, which cannot be seen, but that helps us know what's coming up next. Additionally, you won't see any of this on that screen, so that's very helpful.
You don't see the mouse.
It's the, well, you will see the mouse if you move over the slides, so let's try not to do that. Mouse, or the arrow keys, adjust forward and backwards. Pressing B will actually black out the screen, and I find that helpful during the sermon, just so there's not a white screen. I think it kind of puts extended life on the projector bulb by blacking it out, so that's helpful. And that should be about it, so we can pretend that we just went through the whole service. If you're running slides and the sermon is starting, usually what I'd like to do on the camera, ideally, we would zoom in on the pulpit, and as the preacher or whoever is preaching moves around, we kind of keep an eye on that. Although usually I want to give them a wide enough angle that they have room to move around without having to move the camera, if that makes sense. But you also want to be close enough that you can see them pretty clearly. After the service or during worship, you can zoom back out. I like to get more of the congregation and definitely the worship team in that shot. So we'll pretend that we just went through a whole service and now it's time to take everything down. After the service, you just press escape to get out of the presenter mode. You can see that we go back to, escape. You can see that we go back to PowerPoint, and this goes back to the default wallpaper. There's no problem with that because we're after the service. I'm going to go ahead and quit PowerPoint because we're done with it. It'll ask you to save maybe. If not, I don't know. And then we're going to go in here and press End Stream. This ends the stream for YouTube, but doesn't end the streaming software. So we're going to go ahead and press End Stream. It says, are you sure you want to end? Yes. Or end. It'll ask you to edit in Studio or whatever. We don't need to worry about that. Once it's there, it'll post it to YouTube as a video, and we're done. If you want to look at these analytics, that's fine. But otherwise, we're done here. So I can actually go to Safari up here and go down and quit Safari. Now all we've got left is OBS, which is the broadcasting software. We're actually just going to press stop streaming right here down by all the other settings. And we go down to exit. If we press exit, it'll quit out. And that's about it. That is the whole side of the software. There's a few little tips and tricks that I'll go through real quick here. This is a Windows keyboard on a Mac computer. So if you're trying to do any of the Command Q or Control Q, you're actually going to use the Windows key. So Command Q quits the app, Command W closes the window, Command M will minimize it, different things like that. If you're trying to use those, Command C and Command V, it's just the Windows key is Command instead of Control or Command. So use the Windows key for that. Another thing that I actually find useful is, let's pull OBS back up, and actually PowerPoint too. If you're presenting in PowerPoint, I'll pull up a presentation. If you're presenting in PowerPoint, it actually takes over, you probably notice, it takes over your whole screen with the software, and there's no way to get to the other software that you have open without interrupting what's on the projector. There is one trick to get past this, and if you hold down the Windows key or Command and hit Tab, if you just tap Tab, you'll get this little menu, and each time you tap Tab, it'll select a different app. So if we actually select over to OBS, it'll pull that up over top of our PowerPoint presentation. So if you want to make little adjustments here in the OBS or monitor it real quickly, you can do that. And then pressing Windows Tab, tapping Tab, but still holding down the Windows or Command key, it'll switch you back to PowerPoint. So that's just the app switcher. That makes it really easy to switch between different things. We've also got, if you have Finder pulled up, you can pull up a file browser, and then you can always switch back to PowerPoint to get back to the presentation. So that means you won't have to close the presentation while you've got stuff on the projector, and you don't want to interrupt that. So we'll go ahead and end the show here and quit. Another thing that is very important when you're taking everything down is to go up here to the left and press shutdown on the Mac Mini before you unplug the sound card. If you just unplug it, it's really not good for the computer to have a hard power off like that. So I'm going to go ahead and press shut down. It'll ask me if I want to shut down, and I'll shut it down. This will be done at the end of every service. It'll shut down. And the projector will go blue, and the screen will go black. Now that the Mac Mini's turned off, it is safe to unplug the sound card. But you cannot unplug the sound card without first powering off the Mac Mini. That is very important. Don't forget that. All right, so this will be just kind of a follow-up, mostly regarding teardown and everything, but this is what the setup should look like ideally when everything's all put away. So actually, if you come down here, you can see the Mac Mini's over here. It's got all the cables and adapters already set up. You won't have to put that in or anything. The only one you might need to adjust, like I said earlier, if you're having trouble when you first get it booted up with the monitors where it's not recognizing or mixing up the monitors, there's this HDMI right here, it says it. You just unplug that, give it a second to readjust, and then plug that back in. The Mac Mini is kind of taped down in here. That's not perfect, but just be careful when you're pulling on cables. Power strips over here, shouldn't have to mess with that. There are no extra ports available on this power strip, so there shouldn't be any reason to be plugging stuff in on that. Up here, keyboard and mouse, run back here. All of your extra cables, if you come around the back, all of your extra cables will be running into this hole right here. They barely fit, but they do fit. And we don't really want to be running stuff in and out, so when we're tearing down, for instance, the purple cable, we'll just coil that up and set it on top of the sound cart. Same for the HDMI cable that comes out to the camera. We can just sort of lay that on here. Ideally, the purple cable will be on here. One thing that I would really like to do, just to keep this from tipping over while you're moving the sound cart, is actually just to lay the monitor down until we get it more securely mounted. But just laying it down should be enough to keep it from falling off the cart. So that's important. Another thing is a lot of this equipment, especially the new computer stuff and the monitor and the camera especially, are pretty expensive. So we want to make sure that we are gently but firmly telling kids to not mess with them, please. I know it'll be fun for them, but really you don't want that stuff getting messed up I just remembered you'll probably also want to unplug the camera, and this cable that plugs into the power strip can just sit on top too. I think I mentioned this earlier, but there will be this headphone jack adapter. This just plugs into the Mac Mini. You should be able to adjust the volume, and the OBS software will allow you to monitor the audio in the live stream in real time. So this can help you with troubleshooting. You can communicate with the sound guy which levels sound good. He just controls all that through the mains and the different faders for the main audio channels. Is there anything else? Pastor Mark's here. I think we're good to go. This is the setup. Just take good care of it, and it will take good care of you. Ideally, you'd only have one person doing everything. So we've got now one live stream guy and one slides guy. Those are the same. So if you're doing slides, you're probably also going to be doing live stream. But you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to get fancy with the camera unless you feel like you can manage that. But really just focus on getting it set up, getting the live stream going before the service. You probably want to show up maybe half an hour to 20 minutes before to get all that set up like I showed on the website and everything. You want to do that every Sunday that you're doing the slides. Get the camera set up, get everything configured, check your levels, check everything. Once that's set up, you can start the slides, make sure the worship leaders checked that. You get them running on the projector during the service, and then when the sermon starts, you can kind of make adjustments to the camera. Otherwise, you should be good to go. Make sure you remember turn off the computer before you unplug everything. Ideally, you'd be turning everything off before you unplug everything. And then just coil cables neatly. I'd like to keep this sound cart relatively organized, so anything that doesn't need to be on here shouldn't be. But we'll have the camera, headphones, batteries, tape, just in case. And then we've actually got now these things, so make sure we're using these for cable coiling. And I think that's about everything. So thank you all for helping out. We appreciate it. And I look forward to joining you guys on the live stream. So now very quickly, I just want to show how the sound cart gets packed away. I think this is the best way to do it probably. We've got the monitor laying face down on top of the purple cable. Just nice and gently lay that down on there. The purple cable should be coiled up on the sound cart because it comes out of this hole. You don't want to be pulling this in and out, so just coil it up, lay it on top. Same for that HDMI cable that goes to the camera. Just coil it up, lay it on top. And same for this power cable for the camera that comes out of the power strip. You can just kind of lay that on top here. Keyboard and mouse can stay out. What I do is I slide the projector in upside down. That really prevents these legs from getting caught or snapping, because that has happened. You can actually see it's taped. So that'll protect that. The Mac Mini stays in there, kind of hidden away. The camera goes in this bag. We can put that there. We've got a few extra things, I guess. The batteries for the wireless headset. Tape can go in here, I guess. We've got the headphones, wireless. And then on these things, just coil up the orange extension cable for the sound cart, put that there. This is the projector extension cable. I just coil that there. Snake goes here. That actually runs into this compartment, but that's okay. Got the main PAs, and then we've got both of these speak-on cables that go to the big PA speakers. I like to keep those separate so they're not getting tangled and nicely coiled. So one on that one, and then I just throw the tripod. Well, I don't throw the tripod, but I put the tripod in there next to them. Not too bad. So all in all, I think it's a very nicely organized sound cart. And if we can keep it that way, we'll have a really streamlined setup for the future.